Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Tasmanian pharmacies have received their first batch of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. Chemists have lengthy waiting lists for appointments, with the new jab now approved for everyone aged 12 and over.
I think there's a small subgroup of people that didn't feel comfortable with the AstraZeneca vaccine. It's great that we can reach into that group now and make sure that they're all fully vaccinated.
The Pharmacy Guild of Tasmania says 94 sites around the state will be administering Moderna. As the country continues to face a shortage of GPs, Tasmania's struggles in attracting doctors to rural and regional areas have been laid bare. With the clinic in Ouse set to shut at the end of October, Labor is calling for more incentives to be provided to encourage medical professionals to make the move here.
Closing at the end of next month, some staff refusing the COVID vaccine. Ouse residents left scrambling to find appointments at other practices, but it has those in the neighbouring Derwent Valley concerned.
And people can be waiting anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks to see a GP.
For most clinics, their books are already closed.
Lots of people in the Derwent Valley are already travelling outside the Derwent Valley to access a GP service. You add 1,200 people from the Ouse practice to that problem, it's just going to compound and make it even harder.
A petition signed by 3,000 people is calling on the state government to introduce nurse practitioners at the new Norfolk Hospital to help provide urgent care for the region.
Then people could present there. It would take pressure off the emergency department and ambulance ramping and create better health outcomes.
But the situation is symptomatic of a larger problem.
It's a bit like a canary in the coal mine. It's an indicator that there aren't enough GPs, and particularly in the country.
There are many practices looking for additional GPs.
Calling on the federal government to reconsider the classification of regional areas in Tasmania under the modified Monash model.
It means a lot of areas that you and I and others would consider rural are actually considered more urban.
Like New Norfolk.
So that doctors can be incentivised to move to rural and regional parts of Tasmania and are treated differently than they would be if they just started working in Sandy Bay.
Impacting incentives provided for GPs to move there.
As a state government, we want to make sure that Tasmanians can access healthcare no matter where they live. This is why we're working with the local community, and it's why Jeremy Rockcliffe will be writing to Greg Hunt with regarding this particular issue.
Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
An outside refrigerator is to blame for a house fire in Mornington last night. Fire crews were called to the Acora Street residence shortly after 8 o'clock to find the house fully engulfed. Fire investigators have determined the blaze to be accidental and say there is no evidence to show the fridge was not in working order. The damage bill is estimated at $500,000. The deaths of 6 infants and 1 child between 2014 and 2018 were not the fault of Child Safety Services, according to the state's coroner. But a report says the deaths could have been prevented if previously highlighted issues at the agency had been addressed earlier.
Child Safety Services under the microscope. The coroner publicly releasing her report into the tragic deaths of 6 infants and 1 child, all with connections to the agency. Olivia McTaggart found CSS was not responsible for the deaths. However, she has written of persistent decision-making inadequacies. There were lost opportunities to protect the vulnerable infants, which, if they had been taken, may have resulted in a different outcome. Outlining numerous issues, she highlighted 2 in particular: problematic decision-making in closing infant cases prematurely, and insufficient appreciation of the risks of unsafe sleeping environments. Coroner McTaggart said the problems had repeatedly arisen in previous investigations, contributing heavily in these cases, despite efforts to improve practice.
We have to do better by our children, particularly the most vulnerable children in our community, and they are the children who are coming into contact with the child protection system.
A 3-day inquest was held into the deaths last year, the evidence produced contributing to this report. An emotional and heart-wrenching process, hopefully helping prevent future tragedies. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A 4-year-old girl remains in a critical condition after being hit by a car in Claremont yesterday afternoon. The girl's father was fixing their broken down car when the child ran into the path of a passing vehicle. Police say preliminary analysis indicates speed was not a factor. Teachers are hoping a new facility within Dover District School will help keep students engaged with their learning beyond Year 10. The Year 11 and 12 Learning Centre officially opened by the Education Minister. Until 2015, students had to travel into Hobart for their studies.
Those students who do that travel every day, as soon as the weather starts to get colder and the mornings get darker, the dropout rate is disappointing, and we can pick them up and keep them on that pathway.
Making sure that we have a range of pathways for young people is critical to make sure that young people do stay engaged with education.
The $1.1 million expansion will provide students with access to state-of-the-art technology, offering a mix of TCE and VET courses. New nation-leading research conducted here in Tasmania is hoping to deliver much-needed answers to people living with multiple sclerosis. The multi-million-dollar investment will allow experts to investigate a link between genes and the incurable disease.
The simple daily tasks many take for granted can be the most challenging for people like Old Beach resident Des Graham.
Getting out of bed, I think, the pain associated with my MS is very difficult, and it's worse in the morning.
He's one of 16,000 Australians living with multiple sclerosis, an incurable and debilitating disease that attacks the central nervous system, leading to functional decline. But his link to diagnosis is a mystery.
My family history doesn't have an obvious background with MS.
Experts also want to know how genetics, the environment and personal behaviours influence the risk of MS.
Where you live, who you are and what you're exposed to is the critical thing.
Hobart-based Professor Bruce Taylor has been granted $2.3 million to build on his nation-leading work at the Menzies Institute. Research into the disease has spiked over the past 2 decades, but
we've got a lot that we haven't explained and a lot of areas that we can explore.
The 5-year study has access to the genetic material of 70,000 people worldwide. And one question researchers are striving to uncover: why women make up 3/4 of MS patients.
If you want to look at the biggest risk factor for getting MS, it's actually being female.
Tasmania has the highest prevalence rate in Australia, so for local patients, this research offers optimism.
We're very hopeful that Professor Taylor will progress the quality of our life and find that cure.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
Former Premier and Melbourne protege Ray Groom has revealed he nearly steered away from politics entirely after being taken under the wing of legendary Demons coach Norm Smith in his playing days. Groom is heading to Perth clutching the same Guernsey he wore in 1964, the last year the Demons won the flag.
As Premier, Ray Groom bled blue, but there's plenty of red too in his museum of memories.
I started at Melbourne Footy Club as a 13-year-old and I've played in each of the teams, including the seconds and the seniors.
And that famed 1964 side, the last Demons outfit to win the premiership.
That's me there.
Playing under the guidance of legendary coach Norm Smith, who gifted Groom the famous number 31 of Rombarassi the following year.
It was a huge thing. Number 31 was the most famous Guernsey, Melbourne Guernsey, but probably of any club. And to take that on was a big thing, but because Norm was such an influential person and I respected him, I decided, well, I better accept his suggestion and take on number 31.
Behind the players, Groom picks the ball up.
Groom was even invited to board at Norm Smith's home, just as Barassi had before. Only Groom's mother prevented the move, a decision which changed the course of history.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have become a lawyer. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't become Premier of Tasmania. I think I would have become much more involved in footy.
Groom was injured for the 64 grand final, but played the rest of the year.
This is the trophy that I won, as all the other players won in 1964. And it happens to be an ashtray.
Sadly, Groom believes he's the only player in that side travelling to Perth, with the vast majority locked down in Victoria. But he'll be taking his playing Guernsey with him. Not the famous 31, but his original number 15.
Because we won in 64, and I wore this Guernsey during 64. So I want to take it with me.
Clutching it from the stands, just as he had 57 years before. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, Tasmanian children are being encouraged to talk more at home and in the classroom. a Department of Education campaign designed to ensure more young people can build social skills needed for life.
They say language is an art, and these students at Kingston High are learning just that.
Oral language really represents the foundation stone for all other literacy skills. So basically what you can't say, you can't write. And oral language really helps everybody to build their vocabulary and their understanding of their world.
The Let's Talk campaign, launched by the Department of Education, is encouraging children of all ages to learn the basics of communication.
Our home environment, our school environment, the environment with our friends, who we choose to work with or who we end up working with, all of those environments help us to build our language and our oral language.
Creating conversation starters to help youngsters build the social skills needed to create friendships and even land their first job.
You all have your own opinion and you want to talk about how this is the best idea, but then they can go, oh, wait a minute, what about this? And it's a good conversation starter.
It's part of a conscious effort to get more school-aged children away from smartphones and devices.
Conversation is becoming a bit of a lost art. Social media, I suppose, I think, has created sometimes a vacuum of discussion that isn't always discussion, it's just opinions.
Proving social skills can help young people live a happy and healthy life. For more information, visit the Let's Talk website. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
And hundreds of primary school students will echo throughout Launceston's Albert Hall for the annual Singfest concert. Around 500 performers from 14 schools will sing choral classics for the two-night spectacular. Last year's event was silenced due to COVID, so some kids are putting 18 months of rehearsals into practice.
When they find choir, they might find other people that are more like them. Then maybe they find their voice in choir, they gain confidence from being on stage.
An audience of more than 600 is expected each night. The Tasmanian branch of the AMA has backed a tightening of restrictions to e-cigarettes. From the start of next month, a doctor's certificate will be needed to import liquid nicotine, as well as disposable e-cigarettes. The peak medical body maintains vaping is unsafe and is creating a new generation of addicts.
Jeremy Webberley has been announced as the new talent manager and head coach of the Tasmania Devils. The former Clarence coach says his dual passions for Tasmanian footy and youth development enticed him to the role.
I think that, as I touched on before, I think my biggest strength as a person is building strong relationships, and I think that's, the fundamental skill of any coach. So, I think that's the first and foremost thing I'm going to get to.
It's great to have a Tasmanian that's invested in the game here already take on the role, but first and foremost we needed the right coach and the right person. Jeremy ticked those boxes.
The Tasmanian played 16 games in the AFL before returning to coach his boyhood club Clarence in the TSL for 5 seasons.
Good evening. 22 in Hobart today, Launceston 19, 18 in Burnie and Devonport 16. 25 was the state's top in St Helens, Lowhead and Flinders Island 15 and 21 in Ouse. On the close-up shows low-level cloud mostly about the west and far northeast of the state. Further out, low cloud is seen over parts of the mainland, mostly clear skies elsewhere. Tomorrow, a cold front crosses Tasmania during the morning, bringing damaging winds and very low snow. West to northwesterly winds tomorrow, 25 to 30 knots, reaching 40 about the northwest and upper east. Swells up to 7 metres in the west and south and up to 1.5 metres in the north. A severe weather warning for damaging winds is current for central and southern parts of Tasmania, a gale warning for all coastal waters and the southwest lakes, and a strong wind warning is current for all southeast inshore waters and the central plateau lakes. Tomorrow's forecast now: Hobart, morning showers and wind easing, 16 about Cygnet and New Norfolk. In the north, Launceston and Campbelltown 17, Devonport windy with showers. Burnie and Smithton tomorrow 15, showers and wind easing at Strawn. St Helens 18, Swansea wind easing with a shower or two, and 17 in Fingal. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast, Friday, showers mostly about the west, south and central areas during the evening. Saturday, snowfalls to around 100 metres, slowly rising during the day with showers about the west, south and central areas. And Sunday, fine apart from light showers about the southwest. Capital cities 25 and mostly sunny in Perth tomorrow, Cairns partly cloudy and 34 in Darwin. And currently Hobart mostly clear and 17, Launceston clear and 13, Devonport partly cloudy and 12. That's all for weather tonight, Kim.